What's going on? You're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. It's Friday, May 20th. Hope you've all had a fantastic week. I want to start the weekend off with a little pop music. So let's talk about Harry Styles and this new album, Harry's House. It's studio album number 3 for him and follows 2019's Fine Line, which is an exceptional record. And Harry would probably still be touring in support of that album if not for COVID. I really like just the energy of that record. Fun rock and roll music. It's got a great pop drive to it. I think that tour would have been outstanding. It's very unfortunate, but we cannot think about that. We cannot dwell on it. And thankfully, like any good musician through COVID, Harry Styles took that time to take a step back, make a little music, reflect on what was going on. This album is, I don't want to say much more mellow, but it's certainly toned down a little bit. And I think what's really bringing that on is the way that Harry Styles is embracing the role of singer-songwriter in the traditional sense. It's what I really like about his style of music. And on this new record in particular, you can feel influences like Van Morrison, especially with Astro Weeks. He cites that as being one of his favorite records. I hear Simon and Garfunkel, that pop-driven folk sound that, you know, really was big in the 60s and the 70s and still is big now. It's really, there's a ton of musicians that are working with this style of music. I just happen to think that Harry, from a songwriting standpoint, he's that it guy. He has those hooks. He has those melodies that he comes up with. And it's funny, you look on his history, the experience with One Direction, the boy band background, and I think that comparisons with Justin Timberlake are fair. And I would even argue now that Harry Styles is that it guy. I think he's taken the reins from Justin Timberlake as far as being that guy, an incredible entertainer, very talented, guy can act. He was great in Dunkirk. Really liked him in that role that he played. And so, given output too, I mean, Harry's put out 3 records in the amount of time that Justin has put out. You know, his last record came out in like 2018, I think. So Harry Styles has 3 records roughly within that time period, and he's killing it. What I love about his energy is that I think while his music is very pop driven, there's that rock and roll element. He reminds me really of a combination of Justin Timberlake and John Mayer. He's not nearly as good of a guitar player, I don't think, as John Mayer, because Mayer's outstanding on the guitar. But, you know, and especially as far as the sound of this record, it has that soft rock feel. Think of a lot of that stuff that was coming out in the 80s from guys like Don Henley, Steve Winwood, that whole scene. It's a really fun record to listen to. It's really laid back and chill for that reason. And yeah, you know, talking about little Simon and Garfunkel, little Van Morrison, there's some moments where this record flat out just kind of sounds like a little folk project. And so I like the variety of music on this thing. I will say that this is definitely not his most adventurous record. It's certainly not as adventurous as Fine Line. That's a really good record. It's definitely his best record so far. And I think that the one constructive criticism that I have of this record, even with the hot runtime of 42 minutes, there's 13 songs, and you know, by the end the backside of it seems to kind of run together a little bit, starts to feel a little monotonous towards the end. But overall, the music on this thing really is well put together. His voice, those melodies, those hooks that he's putting together are really quite marvelous on this project. And I'm loving the energy. I'm just loving him as the it factor these days, that go-to guy. That's I feel like he's the pop star. He is the male pop star that is in the limelight right now, and he deserves to be for sure. This thing kicks off with music for a sushi restaurant. That's the other funny thing about this record too. I feel like he's focused a lot on food. The title Harry's House, I think it refers more to his state of mind and that place that you can cultivate as far as your mentality about what home is. It might not necessarily be a solid physical place, but finding, you know, just a spot in your life where you're comfortable. You could just be traveling around, you know, from one spot to another every single day and still have that. So I like that. That's the focus of this record thematically, and I'm really digging it for that reason. Big funky opener and in music for a sushi restaurant. I love the horns. I'm feeling Earth, Wind, and Fire, honestly, on this song. I love the thick bass, a little bit of Michael Jackson on this track. And, you know, definitely, you know, talking about rock and roll, talking about folk music, there's certainly this element to his sound that pop style allows people to incorporate so many different things into their music. And so I think that's why I like the pop foundation for his style and the different things that he does with it. Late Night Talking is your second track, light, breezy, funky song. It honestly, it kind of reminds me if Bruno Mars wasn't as annoying as he is. I like Bruno Mars, honestly. I think in his defense, he just got played out by all the radio stations and everybody else that overplayed his music. But I could definitely feel that influence there on this particular track. Grape Juice is your third song. I love the rock and roll feel on this track. It's got this pulsating bass, great little piano, a bit of Wilco is what I was reminded of when I heard this song. Really great energy there. As it was your fourth song, up-tempo. I like the light new wave feel of this particular track. It's got this steel drum element too that really fits in nicely, makes this track unique. Daylight is your fifth song. It's just jaunty, minimal, psychedelic verses, and then I like the way when the chorus kicks in, it just these rockin' fuzzy choruses. It's a good dynamic there. I like the shift in that song. Little Freak is your sixth song. That is it's great ballad. It's got this mellow, harmonized vocal element to it, minimal electronic, and this nice acoustic riff that carries it. And then Matilda, your seventh track. This is going to close out your A side, and just a solid acoustic ballad. Really liking the folk-driven feel of that song. And then Cinema is going to kick off your B side. Got this mid-tempo groove, bit of disco on this thing, and funk. Very pop-driven though. Definitely can feel the foundation of his music there. Daydreaming is your ninth song. More of that Earth, Wind, and Fire feel going back to that. I love the big vocal melody on this thing. Great hook on this song. Keep Driving is your 10th track. It's got these galloping drums over this soft alternative rock and roll feel, really just showing off just a nice array of influences at this point in the record. And while I did argue that this is the part of the record where it does start to feel a little mundane, a little safe, these are still good songs. They're definitely worth listening to, things that would be nice too if they just happen to pop up in a playlist that you throw them in. Satellite is your 11th track. It's got this ambient open that shifts into this light mid-tempo groove. It fills out big in the end of the song. Boyfriend's your penultimate track. It's got this acoustic ballad, great harmonies, getting that feel of Simon and Garfunkel, that pop folk element. And then Love of My Life, mid-tempo closer. It's got this R&B pop feel. It's, for a really solid album, this finisher was kind of lackluster. I wasn't overall super crazy about that track. It's good, but it's not phenomenal. And while I will say that I do have my criticisms of this record, it's far from perfect. It's a good run. 42 minutes. There's very little filler on this thing, and I really, especially the A side, I'm enjoying all the different music, all the different influences that are there, and I think that's a fun listening experience in and of itself. We're going to vinyl please this thing. I'm enjoying Harry's project here. I'm enjoying watching his career progress too. I think that he's at that point where he's going to be setting the bar, I think, for the next at least half a decade as far as the standard of pop music. And I'm excited for him to do that. So I hope you enjoyed this record. Hope you find this review helpful. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help me blow this project up in 2022. And stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.